Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shawn Gorman. First off, I just wanted to start with a minor personal matter.
Uh-oh.
I have these Bean boots that have been loved for 30 years. Can I return these? You get that a lot.
Do you have your receipt?
No. Do not. Your return policy is one of the things that has changed since Bill did that story. I don't think anybody thought that was even sustainable or possible for as long as it was. I mean, that was just incredible. And I'm sure you have a lot of boots like this in the back.
For sure. Yeah, that was then one of the bigger changes that's happened since that interview, for sure. And the interesting thing about that is we wanted to make sure we stayed true to the original intent of LL's guarantee, which is to stand behind your products. And we're just finding some pockets of folks, and I won't even call them customers, that were buying things at thrift stores or at Goodwill and kind of bringing them back. And so we just implemented needing the receipt, kind of implementing a 1 year for satisfaction. And then if there's ever an issue with a manufacturing defect, that might qualify, I don't know.
I don't think so. No.
There's no time limit on that, so bring your items back. And our customers received it really, really well. Overwhelmingly positive response to that change.
Good. That story was done 6 years ago. What are some of the other things that have changed or evolved since then?
The biggest things that have changed is our governance structure. We used to have a board consisting of all family members, and we shifted in 2013, the year I became chairman, to have a smaller a board with 6 family members, 3 independent directors, and our CEO. And what we did is we moved folks who were formerly on the board onto an owner's council, which gave them the opportunity to share their points of view on owner issues like branding and how the company should be run and expected kind of return from their investment. And had a forum for that, which would then inform some of the decisions we made as a board. And it's worked out really well.
You're the executive chairman, and as I understand it, you're not a typical board chair. I mean, you're very involved in the day-to-day. How does that look for you?
It's interesting. So I was chairman when I first started in 13, and then we had a CEO transition, which is another big change we had. So Chris McCormick was the CEO when I became chairman, and he retired a couple of years after that. We underwent some big change there. Because not only was Chris retiring and we were onboarding a new CEO, but we also had the passing of Leon Gorman, who was, obviously, I was very secure in my role, knowing that I could always have Leon to fall back on, and his guidance was amazing. So when we transitioned and we were looking at the CEO, one of the things that we determined was if we hired outside of Bean, that the chairman role would become an executive chairman role, because we really needed leadership continuity. We needed people to understand that we weren't going to change the way that Bean did business. So I had been at that time in the company for close to 25 years. I had grown up in the company and risen to a senior vice president level before I became the chairman. So that lended that extra credibility that I would have a role, an executive role at L.L.Bean, and it really helped kind of ease that transition when we did hire outside of the company with an external candidate. So that was the difference. But my role is really, really active. I mean, when I became the chairman, I was 47 years old. I'm 53 now. I never thought, when I think of chairman, I don't think of like 50-year-old guys. I think of like, 65-year-old guys or older. And I was just too involved in the business, and I love the business, so I wanted to maintain a role. And I would say that if you ask Steve Smith, our new CEO, he would say that Shawn and I co-lead the business together. So he runs the company. He and I have great dialogue every day about the direction, the strategy of the company, the branding issues we're dealing with, major issues regarding changes like the guarantee and pension and other shifts that we've had. And we have a great time. We're really well aligned, and we have a nice structure and kind of very clear roles in place to make sure that neither of us is stepping on the other's toes.
Takes those clearly defined roles,
you really
doesn't
need
it?
That clarity.
Right. So L.L.Bean was founded 170 years ago by your grandfather, great-grandfather, excuse me, L.L. So 5 generations. This business has been in your family. Yeah. 5 generations. Most family-owned businesses don't make it out of the 2nd or 3rd generation. So, what's your secret and what's your future?
Wow. I think the secret is commitment to the business and what our mission is, and having a mission and a purpose really helps. Kind of made for the shared joy of the outdoors, and that notion of enabling to get people outside, because we believe the outdoors has all sorts of great physical and spiritual benefits, is wonderful. And that has been so kind of impressed upon the generations throughout our, from my childhood up, that it just becomes part of your core values. So the family is really, really well aligned on those issues, and we're eager to keep that going forward. So it's been really helpful to have that mission and purpose. The other thing are kind of guiding principles that were started by LL, but really codified by Leon in our corporate strategies and our stakeholder philosophy. We heard about the triple bottom line of one of the semifinalists tonight, and kind of people, profit, and planet. And we have 6 stakeholders, which include our vendors, our employees, our customers, the environment, shareholders, and the community. So we make decisions, and we try to make those decisions that don't benefit one of those stakeholders over another. And it's a nice balanced way. And again, I said it in my interview, but Leon wrote this great rule book that we all follow. And it's kind of nice to follow that, and having that has been really helpful in maintaining family ownership and alignment among the family members.
You're really famous for being good to your people, too.
Our people are really famous for being good to us. We have the best employees in the world, hands down. And I thank them all who are sitting right up here for not heckling me or making faces while I'm speaking. But I honestly feel like stepping into the role of chairman, people said, were you nervous about that? And I was like, not really, because I knew the talent in the organization and the kind of processes and systems and controls that were in place to run this organization and run it really well, and we just have exceptional talent there.
Yeah. And the future of your family ownership group, do you look out? Do you
Absolutely
see who's next?
Yeah, we have 5th generation members that range from 12 to 32.
Wow.
So there's a pretty good span there. I'm a member of the 4th generation, and we have members of the 5th generation who have joined our Owners Council, demonstrated commitment to the company, have worked there for several years, and have started kind of development opportunities for other 5th generation members, like 5th gen assemblies. We do active development of the 5th generation, who are both employees and not employees in the company, to help them develop into good leadership roles. And we have these nice pathways to governance that we put in place for them since we kind of changed our governance model in 2013. And I think we're providing really good opportunities and things that didn't necessarily exist for me or my generation. But looking forward, understanding that as these generations get larger, it's going to be more difficult, and we needed more structure in place. So yeah, we're doing some really good things, and we've got some really talented 5th generation members coming up too.
Yeah. And how's that trim fit line doing?
Oh, signature, it's good. We're kind of integrating that into our core collection.
Yeah.
And thinking of it less as itself, and that fit it's starting to become a bean fit. So instead of having a separate line that's trimmer and fitter, we're taking some of our core archival products, historic, iconic products, chamois shirts, and just making them in several cuts. Traditional fit, a closer fit, and then a signature fit, which is the most fit, which I can't fit in.
So we want to open it up to questions now. Does anybody have a question for Shawn? I have to put my glasses back on to see anything, but yes.
Yes, you mentioned that you presided over, growing the internet business to $350 million, and then you said that you want to open actual retail stores. So can you kind of expand on that, especially in a time where, Kmart and Sears and JCPenney are all closing their doors and whatnot, and how that's going?
Yeah, sure. So great question. We are a direct business, so the great growth we had in e-commerce, and I wouldn't take any of the credit for it. I played a role there. I was a marketing manager. But that business is now over $1 billion business for us and is our primary channel and source of buyers. When I think of opportunities for acquiring new customers and introducing the L.L.Bean brand to people outside of this region and outside of this area, you can do that really well with physical retail stores, and people like to touch and feel things and put things on to see how they fit. And then when you do that, you can generate future web business by doing that. So it's an omni-channel strategy. It's not a single strategy. With regard to stores like some of the big brands you named, they were really overstored. L.L.Bean is really understored. For a $1.5 billion company to only have 46 full-price retail stores, it's kind of an oddity, and I think it's a way for us to acquire new customers, to grow our business, and also again build that file and build the web business as well by doing that.
So where's your next store?
Next store is in Hadley, Massachusetts. So it's kind of near central Massachusetts, and we actually have a store opening in Toronto in October. So that's an exciting move for us as well.
Excellent. Any other questions? Yes.
Your marketing is amazing. The canoes that's on lately on TV is just phenomenal. Your Christmas marketing, advertising, with the Christmas tree morning, oh my God, you just mesmerize the world with that stuff. Awesome. Do you guys develop that? Do you have a company? How do you work with that kind of advertising?
I'm wondering if you're a Via plant here. We work with a great company, and it's awesome. There's a great company right in our backyard in Portland called Via. And Via has often been looked at as L.L.Bean as a local agency, and we would go and work with the New York Madison Avenue agencies a lot, which were wonderful, but they didn't know our brand nearly as well as someone locally would. And I finally was like, Via is not a local agency. They're a global agency with an incredible list. They just happen to be in our backyard. And boy, when we met with them and shifted to them, the passion and the love for our brand, they were like proud. They were like, let's make Bean really stand for something, and let's that Be an Outsider, which is a play on Bean, so Be an Outsider campaign is just fantastic. And some of the ads you mentioned were just, they pull at the heartstrings, but they also drive business. It's not all about an emotional connection, but it's a big part of it. So yeah, we use Via right locally, and they're awesome. So if anyone's looking for an agency, I would suggest contacting them.
They are very sharp, very sharp. Anybody else? Right over here.
Thank you for speaking, first of all, Shawn. Just wanted to ask a personal question that kind of came up recently, probably the same thing for a lot of different buyers. When I received a gift card from my in-laws, actually, for my birthday a week or two ago. So I was looking through your online database and actually clamoring and figuring out what I would get. How often do folks end up looking, I guess, from a marketing perspective as something that's innovative, like stylish clothing or things that are hip in the marketplace, and then find something traditional when they're looking in their search? And do you guys really enjoy a lot of versatility like that as a brand? In terms of if you're you got the traditional bean boot, you've got everything from outside equipment to survival gear to rain flies to real camping gear. How much of that is popular compared to your more hip and trendy lines?
I would say it's more popular than the hip and trendy lines. And it's funny, like Leon used to cringe at the fact that we were mentioned in the Preppy Handbook back in the 80s. And I've always said that we didn't go seeking fashion, but fashion would find us every now and then. And it's interesting. There's a neat play like the Bean Boot, which is our first product, 107-year-old product. It's today going through this like resurgence in popularity, and it kind of happened after our 100th anniversary. But it's amazing how versatile that boot is from a function standpoint, but it also has some really good style to it as well. And people incorporate that very functional core boot with really hip and kind of cool products. Not always our products, but it works really well. So there's a nice diversity of our product. It's all purposely built. It has function as a main component, but we're starting to introduce more style to our assortment. And we're attracting, it used to be, let's try to attract younger customers, let's try to attract younger customers. And now we're trying to look at psychographics and say, let's attract the Bean lifestyle customer because it's ageless. You don't have to be young to participate in the outdoors. You don't have to be any particular size to participate in the outdoors. So we're trying to be inclusive and kind of ageless, but focused on an assortment that is all about getting out and enjoying the outdoors. So it works well.
Just a couple of Christmases ago, weren't you slammed on bean boots? I mean, you could barely keep up.
We couldn't keep up. Yeah, we were. Yeah, it was pretty incredible to see that production spike.
And interestingly enough, I totally agree that, you know, it's the active people who buy L.L.Bean, but there was a big resurgence of, what did they call them, Metro lumberjacks?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the lumberjack look, right? The city guys with their bean boots. I loved it.
Guys
Somebody
with
was
their
waving
chrome
a phone
hatchets.
back there.
I have a question.
Yes.
Shawn, how strong do you perceive your brand is globally, and who do you consider are your major competitors?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say that our brand is strong in pockets around the world. Globally, it's tough. Japan, for some strange reason, it began in the early 90s, is we're quite popular and well known. We have 26 stores there and have quite a business in Japan. We made a foray into China that just didn't go that well, and we're not that well known there. And it was, you know, there's opportunity there in the future to develop the brand. But again, it just takes a lot of marketing effort. And what we focused on is we have plenty of opportunity in the US where we have really high awareness. And I want to get greater consideration for our brand. A lot of people know us, but they don't know exactly what we're all about. So we're working hard there. And the second part of your question was, oh, major competitors, right. It's interesting because we have a really broad assortment. I mean, I think you've heard some of it, but I mean, we do a home business in bedding, so you might be competing with, you know, Grandin Roads and West Elms and folks. I would say on the outerwear side, our big competitors would be the North Face, Patagonia, Columbia, some of those folks. On the apparel side, you might look at companies like a Land's End and a Bauer, but also a J. Crew would come into play there. And then from an outdoor gear and hard goods, you'd have to look at one of the big retailers like an REI and say that they're a competitor, but they also, you know, frankly, could be a partner someday. Bean is a brand. REI is a retailer, and they sell multiple brands at their store. We basically sell one brand at our stores. We supplement at the retail store in Freeport, but there'd be opportunity there as well to be a wholesaler.
Interesting.
Shawn, I think for a few years now you've had an annual family meeting. How has that evolved, and what benefits have you derived from that?
Yeah, we've had an annual family summit that we put into place. You'll all love this as family members, but the whole purpose of the meeting was to build family alignment, build relationships, and kind of continuity of ownership and alignment in the business. And eventually it got to this point where some family members wouldn't show up because another family member was showing up, and you know, it was like, wow, this is exactly what we didn't want, but that's a family business. And so we have had that, and I will tell you that the content was great. We'd have part of that would be about 30% educational and 70% fun. So we do it in these great like main locations like Cliff House or up in Bar Harbor or Point Lookout, and we'd integrate a lot of fun activities. But we decided that it wasn't really fitting the bill of what we wanted it to do, so we shifted it a little bit this year, and we had an event just after our board meeting on May 17th. We had it on the 18th, a Saturday, right down at our paddling center at Lower Flying Point in Freeport, and which is a beautiful spot and a great, you know, one of the greatest spots to kind of hang out in Maine. So we invited all the families came to that. It was a one-day event and a little bit more accessible for families with kids, and it turned out to be really good. And I think, again, serves the purpose of getting the family together and reminding each other that we like each other. So.
That's always a good thing. All right, I think we're probably out of time. One more. Sorry, we have one more.
Hi.
Hi.
Christina Cannon from Main Street, Skowhegan. I noticed that I'm seeing more information about the outdoor discovery programs, and it seems to overlap really nicely with your Be an Outsider campaign, and I'm curious what the direction for those programs is going to be.
Yeah, good question. The outdoor discovery programs are great. If you haven't participated in one, you should go check it out. And actually, is it free for what months? Through the end of June. Our new credit card partner, MasterCard, has helped work with us, and we're going to be offering outdoor discovery courses for free. So go online and sign up. But these are awesome, and it's part of that enabling, and it's that learn, try, buy strategy that we have. And one of the barriers to selling a kayak is somebody might not know how to kayak. So you better go out and teach them how to do it. And we do it in a nice, friendly way, and it introduces folks to a lot of different sports. So we have wing shooting and fishing and snowshoeing and mountain biking and paddling and stand-up paddleboarding, and it's really great. And it's a part of that strategy of getting people outdoors, introducing people to new sports, breaking down those barriers, and hopefully building a lasting relationship with a customer.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank you.
sharing. This was wonderful.